All right, thank you all so much for joining. My name is Adam Noonan. I'm a sales engineer here at Lenses, and this is our weekly Kafka live stream, quick 30 minutes for tips, tricks, and trends we're seeing in the marketplace today around event-driven architecture, and especially Apache Kafka. Today, we'll be talking about the data lineage of your Kafka microservices, the criticality of such a feature and how we've conceptualized it and put it into our platform today, what it looks like going forward into the future. We do this every week, so 30 minutes, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, every Thursday. Today, again, we're talking about data lineage with Kafka microservices. Next week, related, we'll be talking about connector failures, what to do when things go wrong, alerts, automatic restarts, and how to preempt that in the future and address that proactively. Again, my name is Adam Noonan. Joined with me today is Stefan, Damos, Matthias, Guillaume, and Andrew. Collectively decades of development and Kafka experience. So we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Feel free to chime in with projects you're working on, any sort of issues that you're looking to address, or anything you'd like to hear more about. And who are we? We are Lenses.io. We provide the ideal developer experience for Apache Kafka, taking all the bells and whistles and features that you need when working with event-driven architecture into one holistic platform with all the security and governance structures applied so that your large enterprise and organization can confidently work with production applications and critical data flows in Apache Kafka. So that's what we provide. And today we'll be talking about data lineage and how it relates to event-driven architectures. To set that up, we'll talk about why it's important in general, but then especially for event-driven applications and architectures. And to guys frame that, we're going to talk first about a batch concept and then how that relates to event-driven architecture and why data lineage is especially important and critical when it comes to data streams in event streaming. So with batch concepts, it's more of a point-to-point connection where you have your server, it's reaching out to an external source system, another application, and it's requesting data. So there is that connection between client and server. You're sending requests and you're getting a response back. It's more of a point-to-point connection. And data lineage is still important here. Of course, you want to know where that data is coming from and what happens after it gets pulled into your new application or database. But then it becomes increasingly important to map data lineage and understand the flow of data with streaming, because instead of relying on a chronological trigger or an application reaching out and requesting data, you have the concept of a full event message, which is stored in Kafka. So it unlocks new architectures or enables easily architectures like a fan out, where you have an application writing to an event log, and then you have multiple consumers consuming from that event. And again, not triggered chronologically, but that data is distributed automatically as soon as that event occurs. So increasingly important to understand where that data is coming from, because it can go to so many different places and come from so many different data sources. And then we took a whole take on it with our platform in Lenses, and the issues that we're looking to solve with our topology feature, which represents data lineage, is one, to gain an intuitive understanding of your data flows. So keeping with the theme of democratizing data access and understanding, for a non-technical user to access Apache Kafka and get some sort of information about where is this data coming from, where is it going to, there's a significant barrier to entry for someone who isn't technical, not a developer, that gets scared by a command line interface. So we've tried to make that as easy as possible for a engineering manager or an operations analyst to come online and quickly view, okay, I've got this Kafka topic. My applications are writing to it here. I know exactly which one and who to contact if things go wrong. I also know if there's a change made, what downstream systems I'll be affecting. Trying to make that as easy as possible and lower that barrier to entry and technical talent required. It's also very handy for troubleshooting. So if you're going to make a change, a schema change, again, understanding those downstream constituents, systems, and applications are all important information for a developer to know in the day-to-day, making this feature a critical component for an operational tool when you're not just observing Apache Kafka, but actually working with it and making changes too. So troubleshooting and impact analysis, both really important here. You want to know if there is an issue, what was upstream of that, what could be contributing to that problem, and applying root cause analysis. And then again, what's downstream of that? If I make a schema change, what am I going to impact? Data lineage is also important when we're talking about compliance. So there are specific regulations and requirements around tracking your lineage, and you need to represent and show that you are understanding and recording where this data is coming from and where it's going to. So all issues we look to solve with our topology feature, which shows data lineage in Apache Kafka. So now we talked about why it's important. Now we'll quickly talk about what we can show in the lenses topology, and I'll give you a quick demo of how it looks today in our platform. So the four critical components in the lenses topology features. One, of course, Kafka topics are our event log. This is where we're storing data, but it's also what consumers and producers are subscribing to or producing data from. So the analogy is a database table. That'd be our Kafka topic, except it's a lot more flexible than that and highly configurable. So of course, topics are a critical component of our topology. So our Kafka connectors, Lenses being a holistic platform, will enable the development, deployment, and monitoring of Apache Kafka connectors. So a connector that's producing from or consuming from a topic, incredibly important to show within our topology to say, hey, this data is coming from this database. We have a connector here, writing to this topic, or it's our sync connector, which we're using to sync to an S3 bucket there. Lenses SQL processors is our take on SQL stream processing with SQL. This is whenever we are using an application that is both consuming from and producing back to Apache Kafka. So not a connection to an external source system, but rather an application that is applying a transformation, aggregating data, filtering within Kafka itself. So definitely important when you're troubleshooting and understanding what's being done to data in Kafka before syncing to an external source system. And then external microservices, of course, any sort of application that your teams have developed, they'll register with Lenses. We'll say, hey, I'm producing to this topic or I'm consuming from this topic. So you can understand, again, really important for troubleshooting or root cause analysis or impact analysis. And the way that looks in our topology today, it's really nice. It's scrollable. I'm looking at this from an administrator's perspective. So I can see everything within my cluster today. You can see each of those icons representing a different component in my data flow. The search feature is really nice, so I can jump straight to the data flow I want to look at. I can quickly understand, look, I have this New York yellow taxi trip data topic. I can click into that topic and get some high-level information about how data is stored, how the topic is configured to retain data, and even some metadata telling me who owns this topic, who to contact before subscribing, and some useful tags telling me what sort of data might be stored here. Now, this is all information I could get elsewhere in Lenses within our data catalog, but the topology makes it really intuitive to understand, okay, I have this topic, that's how data is stored, I'm seeing about this production rate, but it's coming from this application, which is registered here. So I know exactly what application is producing data to this topic. So if there's an issue, I know where to go. And then we have some transformations being done. So again, this is our SQL processors. It's just a few lines of SQL. And we're able to, looks like we're creating a dead letter queue here. So we have our problem topic here, which we are backing up to an S3 bucket. And then we filtered that out into a clean topic. So this would be the topic we can start consuming from, either with a connector or an external application microservice. So that's how it looks in the platform today. Now I'll hand it off to Matthias, who's going to walk us through the process of registering these external applications in the Lenses topology.
Thanks, Adam. So one of the questions that you guys must be thinking is, okay, I'm seeing the topology, how am I going to do it? How am I going to handle some applications? I have Java, I have Python, I have C#, I have a lot of different types of applications running through Kafka, and can become a nightmare in the end of the day. Because if you think of the whole concept was, I have Kafka that embrace everything. Everybody's a producer, everybody's a consumer, but I don't have straight information of who is who, like Adam showed. And there's two ways for us to use Lenses to solve this problem. One is using Java SDK, when I have a lot of things, and why Java is the one that has the SDK. Most of the application nowadays are building Java for Kafka, And Kafka was built in Java initially. So you have Java in Scala, parts of Java, other parts in Scala. So it makes more sense to have this on the Java side. So for Java, we can collect metrics. We can have a lot of information that we can use the SDK besides the other one. But if I have another type of application, I can use the REST endpoint. The whole idea is it's not about the language that you're using, but you have this flow of data because, again, what the main idea of this session is data lineage. So we know when data is produced, when it is consumed, and we have this amazing map of everything. So make completely sense. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about it, just for us to understand. I think we are technical. So technical people wants to see code, wants to see how it does, how to see this. I think has a question.
Yeah, as of now, what is the difference between REST proxy of Kafka and REST endpoint? Is this both are same or any difference it is?
Great question. It's two different things. The REST proxy is more about how you can translate your producer and consumer for a REST application. That's one thing. The REST endpoint that I'm going to show you now is more about the interaction between your application or what you registry and Lances. Two different things. One thing that is similar to REST proxy is supposed to be bridge on Stringy. That's the one that's close one. But again, both REST proxy and bridge, they have limitations of producer and consumer, what you can do by capabilities, a more simple way.
To summarize REST proxy, we would use to produce or consume directly from Kafka using HTTP.
Yeah.
With here, we're talking about registering your application in the Lenses topology. So you just make a quick API call and tell Lenses, hey, I'm an application, I'm producing data to this topic.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Good. And be careful if you're using REST proxy is good, but if you want to use robust applications, you're gonna have problem at the end of the day. But great question, thank you. If anyone has any questions, please ask. You're here to learn, to make questions. Do not be shy. We're gonna answer. Don't worry, we're here for this. So let me share my screen. I can start with, I'm not a Java developer, so I'm picking up example that Lens is built. So we're gonna share later on these examples for you guys to test it out as well. You can use your environment, you can use Lens's box, so you can reproduce and see how it goes. That's the beauty of this. You don't need to have a complete Java and complete Kafka environment. Let me share. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Let's see, I think it's because of the monitor, I have to do like a portion, because if not, you guys gonna be able to see. But I think it's good now, right? I think everybody's seeing my screen. So we have an application that works with payment simulation. So it's gonna simulate some payments on Kafka, the producer in Java. The other one's gonna pick it up these payments and validate if it's a correct payment, if it's suspicions, and if it's gonna go against it, gonna keep the correct flow. And the other one's gonna get the suspicions payments for us to make some validation. So just a dummy application, just for us to understand what's close to the real one. The first one, like I say, is just this one. It's just producing data, but the second one is the important one. The second one for us, for this more demonstration, is he's the one going to register the metrics, the application. All of them have the responsibilities. In this one, I'm going to register the application Lenses using the SDK that I'm going to show you guys here. You're going to register the application. You're going to send the metrics through Kafka. Okay, to the topics called topics metrics and topics topology and topology. This is a Lenses topics, not building a Kafka open source or Confluent. So you need to use this as Lenses because the Lenses feature, the topology is the Lenses feature. And we're gonna use this to send the metrics. So far, so good. Any questions? If we have any questions, let me know because I'm not seeing the chat. But you guys can stop me and make questions, okay? So this application is running. What's happening here on Lenses is my topology that Adam show up. I receive the payments. I have the payment service running, register this application. So now I have the metrics of how many messages I'm sending. I have, through this application, I'm throwing two different topics. One is the suspicion payments. Okay, this is something wrong in the end of the day. And I have this application that's gonna make something suspicious, gonna call, for example, for fraud, or call all departments in the company. And I have the correct payments that are gonna be, okay, I pay, now I'm gonna store this in the long-term storage. So far, so good. I have these two applications registry in here using SDK. With the SDK, I have, like I say, the metrics of everything. But then someone says to me, my boss said to me, okay, now going to the Explore, I want to know who is producing the users, the orders, and the products, for example. I have the payments in the Java, but I have microservices. So I want, if we go to the topology, I don't have this info. I have it. Sorry. I forgot to delete this one to show you guys how it works. Let me delete this. You try, you test, the demonstrations always happen this. We show, if I go to the topology, I don't have anything. I suppose you have because of it, but let's think of it, this start right now. So I have nothing here. I have orders because I have this transformation. I have I have this connector, but I don't know what origin is. Because if I go to the apps, I only have my Java apps and my SQL processor app registry. So what I do, I'm gonna do the REST API registering. So I'm gonna go to the post. I'm gonna call the Lances API to the REST post. I'm gonna need a token. I'm gonna specify the name of my application that I'm registering. I push some tags, so I know this is a fast API. I know this have users, orders, and products. It's a JSON topic. I always like to do this way, this will be more easy. One thing that I know is this application has a health endpoint. So in 50 seconds, Lances is gonna go and give a get on this endpoint to see if it's responding. That's for me to know if it's running or not. If I have, I'm gonna show you when I delete this application is a pod in the Kubernetes. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna register the application, super fast, already there. I'm gonna go to the topology. Now I know that these three topics, they have been registering this application. And then let's do even a dramatic something. I'm gonna delete the application. Sometimes I'll pick it up because the pod is stateless, so it might come up before the 50 seconds request. Oh, doesn't found. Okay, doesn't my pod change. Oh, let me get my pod name, just a second. Then we're gonna see. Okay, guys, let me share this. No problem at all. So we're gonna go in this one, and I'm gonna delete this pod. Again, I might not get the result that I want because it comes back pretty fast because it's stateless. I don't have to worry about stateful application here. If it was stateful, maybe I'm gonna see it. Okay, content is running. Let's wait a little bit. So far, any questions? No questions. So everybody knows about what you're talking about. Good. We have to, you have to create a quiz in the end of the session, Adam, to see, okay, if you know this, make the quiz to see if you learn about it.
Definitely. We'll start awarding some A+s and D-.
Yeah.
Harry,
Harry.
feel free to chime in.
Yes.
Yeah. So what type of applications can we register here? So from the infrastructure point of view, this question is, example, I have a lot of applications. How many applications I can register? Where it is exactly running? Infrastructure is managed by some other team and application is managed by some other team. How we can collaborate?
I think that's a good segue into talking about the CI/CD flow and how we would automate this actually in production. So what you would want to register is any application that is either writing to or consuming from Apache Kafka. So we want to represent those applications here because they'll be useful when it comes time to troubleshoot a problem with the data flow or understand the downstream applications that would be affected from something like a schema change or message deletion. And Matthias is obviously registering these applications with the SDK and HTTP endpoint manually right now, but ideally in production, you're doing all of this automatically via your CI/CD flow. So as your developer, you're working on your application, you add it to your repository, and you trigger that automated CI/CD process. It should pick up on, hey, I'm actually writing or consuming from this topic. I'm going to reach out to Lenses and make that API call to register this application when I bring it online.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly that.
Cool. And I can share my screen and
Yeah, let me let you share because my pod is like super fast, so it's not even 6 seconds to be back.
well, thank you for walking us through that. Again, we just registered 2 different applications using the methods that we have in the platform today. Again, in production, should either be automated and integrated in your CI/CD process, either by applying that Java library to your Java Scala or Spring Boot application, or making that REST API call to register, hey, I'm producing to this topic. I'd be remiss to point out that we don't just offer the topology. It's a fantastic feature and where we see developers spending a lot of their time and anyone working with Apache Kafka to gain an understanding of the changes they're making on the system. But it's really the synergies with the other components of our platform that add to that value. So the ability to understand that full data flow, but then double click into a specific topic, see the actual topic data, ask questions about the data in that topic as it is in Kafka, then using our SQL Studio, keeping the full data catalog of all the metadata about a topic, what sort of data is there, who owns it, again, what channels is subscribed to for any changes. Then also the ability for even a non-technical user to view a data flow, say, hey, this is really important data. I'd like this synced to S3. They can easily just go into create a connector, deploy a connector there directly to Kafka Connect with no CLI experience at all. And then tightly coupled too with our stream processing capabilities. So we've done a presentation on that as well. Definitely check that out if you haven't seen it. We provide the ability to use Kafka streams and provide your stream processing capability just by writing a few lines of SQL, which we then deploy as a Kubernetes pod onto your cluster, which enables the automatic scaling of those processes. So it's really the synergies of the holistic platform that drive value for our customers. And of course, applying your governance model to the permissions and roles of people accessing these resources to really enable Kafka to actually be self-service as it's intended. So that's about topology and data lineage in the platform today. We do have a question. I'll go ahead and take that now, and then we'll talk about where we're taking the feature in the future.
Yeah, hey Adam, nice to see you all here, and thank you for having this. I got a security question here. So I do know Lenses provides ACL built in, but while what we were just looking at, you had a level where it said security, right? And then test at the last slide, I think. So just was curious to know how are we securing it? Because in production, you would go through SSL for producer and consumers, and then you do have the Connect cluster secure too, right? 2 levels of security going in there. And how would we do this in Lenses? Or are we already taken care of behind the scenes about this?
Great question. Yeah, so Lenses is a developer experience on top of that underlying infrastructure. So your applications are still going to use SSL to connect to your Apache Kafka. Your Kafka Connect cluster will still be your Kafka Connect cluster. We just provide the ability for you to manage and view all those resources in a nice intuitive user interface that really accelerates time to value and reduces mean time to resolution when you're working with event-driven architectures. So all those security controls that you have in place today, those will still be the standard going forward. We just provide the governance and security around user access to those services.
So are we handling the RBACs, or say we got RBAC controls for admin and then the developer side and other ones too? So can we set all that in here?
So typically you would use that using ACLs, right? You would have your own personal ACL that you're using when you're connecting to Kafka, a command line interface. What we found is that using ACLs to manage user access doesn't scale that effectively. So with our platform, you would sign in with your SSO, connect to your identity provider, and then that would enable the authentication and authorization. So you'd be part of a specific user group with a granular access permissions determined by your administrator.
Oh, nice. That's nice. Thank you for
Yeah.
letting me know that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that topology feature I was showing earlier, where I have that administrator perspective, if I was a developer on financial payments, I'd only see the flows relevant to my position, financial
So in
payments.
other words, you're saying we can connect Microsoft ID, and plumb that into LDAP with where we launch lenses.
Exactly. And then your Kafka is still your Kafka. So if you move to MSK tomorrow or Confluent Cloud in a week, your lenses experience and all of those governance structures still apply. You've just swapped out the underlying Kafka underneath, so you can make that your own business decision wherever ROI is the highest.
And I would think to host this whole thing into HD Insights and Azure, because that plumbs in with AD automatically behind the scenes. But that's different. Thank
Yeah.
you for letting me know that.
Absolutely. Feel free to reach out to us on community Slack, because that is something that's been raised of interest to our customers as well. I'm happy to talk with you about how that would work.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So we've talked a lot about how we address topology and data lineage in the platform today. Just a quick teaser on where we're going with the product. So as it is right now, it's a one-to-one relationship between a Lenses instance and a Kafka cluster. So that topology represents data flows within a singular Kafka cluster, but within 6.0, we'll be releasing the new architecture, which is multi-Kafka. So one Lenses instance, one governance structure applied to your entire data streaming ecosystem. With that, there's going to be a new user experience that will enable not just viewing a lineage of a single data flow within a single Kafka cluster, but more of an aggregate, high-level, mile-high view of your data ecosystem. So what's being done at a Kafka cluster, who's producing data to it, transformations, but then after you sync it to an external source system, where is that data going? Is it leaving my cloud footprint? Am I going to have to be charged egress fees? Is it going to a new geography as well? So trying to provide as much information at an aggregate level as we can, while enabling that ability to double click in and view specific singular data flows. So really excited about where we're taking this to. And related to that as well is trying to provide as much intelligence to the Kafka protocol as possible. Like I mentioned, information around, are we leaving my cloud footprint? Is this a new geography? And really exciting new features in the pipeline as far as automatic tagging of data sets and smart alerts too, so you can be sure that you are compliant with your rules and regulations. So lots more to show here. We're all super excited about it. I know we're over time. Definitely tune in next week where we're talking about Kafka connector failures, when things go wrong, how to alert, and automatic restarts. With that,
Adam,
there's more questions.
There's one question on the Q&A that is, there's ability to automatically associate consumer groups to input external application topology.
Yeah, that is a great question. We do that natively with things like connectors. So you would obviously see that consumer group. Damos or Guillaume, do you have a comment here that could add some flavor? Because I definitely understand why that would be of critical importance.
I think this is one of the things we want to start addressing with our new lenses, because we have the information available of the consumer groups. We haven't managed to map it yet to the applications that you see in the topology, but it's there for the taking. So hopefully over the next months, you're going to see something there.
As Andrew would say, we have all the pieces ready.
Exactly. All the ingredients are there.
There we go.
Famous Andrewism.
Awesome. Just checking the chat for any additional questions. Feel free to come off mute and give us a shout if you have anything. And if not, you can definitely find us on community Slack. We can engage with everyone of the team there. Pretty active community as well, so you can talk to other people that are using the platform or working with Apache Kafka. It's a great resource there. And with that, thank you so much. This has been our weekly 30 minutes Kafka live stream talk. Again, I'm Adam Noonan. definitely tune in next week where we're talking about connector failures.